has 2 to 4 players placing pieces on and around a cube in order to earn the most points. Pandasaurus Games provided this in exchange for an honest review. Depending on player count, everyone connects one of their colored blocks in a specific location, then attaches the matching flag. The central cube must always sit flat on the table. On your turn, remove your flag, then place 3 of your blocks. You must start adjacent to one of your existing blocks. If you reach an edge, roll over it. If you reach a wall, build up and over, stepping back down if necessary. You can't keep stacking blocks. The point is to cover the play area, not to build away from it. If you can't place 3 in a row, you must choose another direction. The same rule applies if you run into a flag. Once you've placed your blocks, put your flag in any of your blocks to prevent opponents from continuing in that direction. The flag cannot point downward. The game ends after 7 rounds. To score, count each visible block per side and per color. In this example, on this side, blue has 8, pink has 11, and yellow has 4. Blocks covered by a flag, such as the blue one here, do not count unless viewing a flag straight on, such as the pink one here. Once you've scored all 5 visible sides, the player with the highest total wins. In the 2-player game, players take 2 color cards and the matching blocks. Secretly choose one card, place it face down in front of you, and return the other card to the box. The rest of the game is similar to the main game, but you only score at the end with your chosen color. Attach a series of 3 cubes, use your flag to block opponents, and score the highest total across 5 cube sides. That's Control. You can play Control on a coffee table. All 4-player areas combined are about the size of one placemat. The 2-player game has a bluffing and deduction element, which I think works really well. Once you start adding more people, things fall apart. There's no reading. Math during endgame scoring is kindergarten level. You need spatial planning and plenty of coordination, but it's not especially complex. By the time the player can put together a small Lego set on their own, say by 6 or 7, they'll be fine here. Kind of. I touched on this a moment ago, and I'll talk more about it later. Our games, including Setup and Takedown, take around 25 minutes. In our 3rd game of Control, I went head-to-head with my dad. I was pink and used blue as my decoy. As the game went on, I realized that my blue wasn't tricking him, and I ended up going too hard on one side. Dad, on the other hand, beat me by 1 point with his green. His yellow decoy crushed both of us. I wonder if he forgot which color he was. Control's pastel colors are so pretty, and the finished game looks rather impressive. Unfortunately, you have to work really hard to get to that point, and I'm not talking about strategy. The cubes aren't made well. Once you start plugging them into each other instead of the main black cube, things fall apart easily. The flags are also delicate. This isn't just our complaint. We looked online to see what others said, and it seems like many have the same issue. It's too bad. Not only does having to stop and rebuild things hurt the flow, but if you didn't see where the piece broke off, it could mess with scoring and that player's plans. When you're not reattaching things, turns are usually quick, although some players might get analysis paralysis and freeze due to the number of choices. For the most part though, the game zips along and doesn't overstay its welcome. Thanks to an excellent rulebook, this is easy to teach, learn, and play. The box is a bit bigger than it needed to be though, making transport not impossible, but hard to just toss into a backpack or purse. Even though you start in the same location, more or less, the player decisions mean that each game will play out in a different way. This is always one of my favorite things about abstracts. Scoring can take about as long as a couple of rounds, although I quite like how it is done. Do you sacrifice a side to dominate one or more? The way the flag is used is brilliant. Speaking of scoring, you'll need to print out your own sheets because there aren't any included. That's disappointing. Control is at its best with 2 people. You take the clever seesaw puzzle of the main game and add a bit of bluffing and deduction. You also have 1 or 2 fewer players knocking and scattering pieces all over. The poor fitting pieces are unfortunate and frustrating. As it stands, I'd pretty much refuse playing this with more than 2 and really only play with my dad, who's the least clumsy person in our family. Back in January of this year, I reviewed a game called Bosk. It's also a beautiful abstract with clever gameplay and scoring, but the similar colors and poorly made trees make it more work to play than it was worth. That's how I feel about Control.